morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are in the world, and welcome to day 2 of the comeback. I want to send our dancing queen, DJ Megan, some higher love. Thank her for helping us celebrate good times, standing taller, and staging our comeback. And what an incredible day we had yesterday. I am still floating on the power and energy of empowerment. There was definitely 24-karat magic in the air. We heard from so many great women, and they set the bar high for today. And I promise you, we will not disappoint. I would love to know what your favorite session was from yesterday. So go ahead, drop that in the chat now. And if you missed yesterday, or if you were here and just want to relive some of the magic that was in the air, our session recordings will be posted tomorrow for you to view. I want to give you just a few housekeeping notes, and then we're going to dive right into it. If at any time during the summit you have technical issues, please drop a note in the chat and one of our team members will DM you to assist, or stop by the Mom Project Lounge where you can connect with our TMP employees, or if you just need to take a break and hang out, come say hi to us. Some of our sessions will have Q&A, audience polls, and we want to hear your voice. Your voice matters. And so we're looking for your participation, so much so that we're going to reward it. So throughout the summit, our team will be selecting a handful of engaged winners to win a $50 phenomenal gift card or the Mom Project swag bag. And I'll be announcing those winners at the close of today. We had 10 yesterday, so get in there and engage. Don't forget, if you're posting about the event on social media, and please help us spread the word, please tag the Mom Project and use the hashtag #TheComeback2022. So are you ready to get started? Come on, let's continue our comeback. And I can't think of a better way to do that is that we're going to announce our next keynote speaker, Jennie Weber. Jennie is from Best Buy. She's going to be chatting with Cassie Manning from Rise. Ladies, the stage is yours.
Hi, Cassie.
Hello. Hi, Jennie. How are you? Welcome. So welcome to our audience. Hello. It's day 2 of the Comeback Virtual Summit. My name is Cassie Manning, and I'm an Associate Program Manager for the RISE program, as Rocki mentioned. I am so excited to be having this conversation today with you, Jennie. You're our keynote speaker. Jennie is the Senior Vice President of Experience Design, Insights, and Measurement at Best Buy and a mom of 4, making her an all-out expert on today's topic of balancing being a working mom while growing a career. I'm going to talk you up, Jennie. You are an expert on this, man. You have 3 times as many kids as I do. I'm so impressed by that. Jennie has a 20-year career in consumer marketing and has held several roles at Best Buy, including Vice President of Brand Strategy, as well as leadership roles in category and services marketing. Jennie also serves on the board of the Best Buy Foundation, which is focused on providing access and training to teens in underserved areas. She's a customer advocate, partnering with leaders across the organization to ensure that experiences are seamless, easy, and built with customer top of mind. So welcome again, Jennie. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Cassie. I'm glad we're able to have this little coffee talk. I think you and I decided this was our little time to chat. Yep. And then cheers. Cheers to all the moms out there.
Yeah, this is such an important conversation to have, and I think it's very timely. We have a lot of moms in this crowd, obviously, and a lot of women who are just looking to balance it all, right? If that's possible. So just for our audience, if it's possible. If you have questions throughout the conversation, please drop them in the comment box. If we have time at the end, Jennie will take a few of those. But really, let's get started. So just tell me about you, Jennie, and how long you've been at Best Buy and kind of what your role is there.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about my story, Cassie, and then we can kind of go from there. And I'm actually going to start, I think, as leaders and women, we have lots of different titles, right? So I'm going to start with my first title, which was daughter. And I happen to be the daughter of a mom who worked outside of the home off and on as I was growing up, and was so proud of her contribution to her workplace and to home. And so she talked a lot about her job and what she did. She was an administrative assistant, and so proud of her ability to type memos without any errors so quickly. And I just loved hearing about that. And she was such an amazing role model. And when she wasn't working, she was doing all kinds of other things. She was an artist and a writer. She published a book with a friend. She was an active participant in the community. She was on the board of directors for the Rape and Abuse Crisis Center in Fargo, North Dakota. So she just really lived this multifaceted life and was such a great role model for me as I was growing up. My mom is now thriving with Alzheimer's, which I'm sure sounds like kind of an oxymoron. And the reason that she's thriving is because of the incredible care and love she's getting from my sister, who also happens to be an amazing working mom. She's been an RN her entire career and has raised her family and is now caretaking for our mom, which I think is such a common story for women, that no matter what, we're caretaking sort of in all these different places. But I share these stories because I do feel so fortunate to have had so many strong, powerful female role models in my life that kind of showed me like, oh, that's possible.
Yeah.
So, I'm
representation is so important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what an example she showed for you.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yep, for sure. At Best Buy, I lead a team. You talked a little bit about it, but I lead a team of amazing, creative, innovative designers and researchers. And we're all kind of pointed at this, making experiences amazing and lovable for our customers and our employees, which is awesome. And then that I'm a mom and I've got 4 kids. I have been a mom my entire adult life. So I started pretty young. And I have 2 children who are now adults and off doing their own thing. And then my husband, Dan, and I have a son who's a freshman in college and navigating all of that. And we have a 15-year-old left at home who's a sophomore in high school. And I'm sure is thrilled with all the love and attention that he's now receiving.
Yeah, he's getting some only child experience here in his teenage years.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, we think about the challenges that women specifically face that are different from other demographics in the workplace. So, can you just talk through some of the challenges you face being a working mom and growing to such a high level in your career?
Sure. I think a little bit about my life in seasons because we all have different seasons that we go through. So I mentioned that I was a really young mom. And so in my early career and being a young mom of 2 and eventually a single mom, I was really focused on the functional aspects. Like I needed a job and I needed to pay my bills and put a roof over my kids' heads. Right. And so I wasn't really thinking about my career journey or development. That just wasn't top of mind. I mean, I'll share a story with you, Cassie, because sometimes you need a kid story to lighten things up. But
for sure.
I remember piling Ben and Katie into the minivan, and they were, I don't know, like 3 and 5. And we had to go to the grocery store, which you all know is a bad idea. You don't take kids to the grocery store, but sometimes you have to.
The worst.
Right? And so
thank God for Instacart.
Exactly. We didn't have that back then.
I know.
I think I had like $17 in my checking account. And so I'm like in my head stressing out about taking these 2 little people to the grocery store and thinking, okay, we need the basics. And so I pull in, I park, and I turn around, and in my mom voice, and you all know what that is, I say to the 2 of them, listen, we are only getting the bare necessities. And there's just silence in the car. And then all of a sudden, this little voice chirps up from the back, and she says, is that the movie or the book? And she was, of course, referencing the Jungle Book and the song, The Bare Necessities. Yes. And I just started laughing. and scooped him up, and we went in the grocery store and, you know, we got the bare necessities.
Yes.
And I share that because that was my frame of mind at the time. Just getting the job done, both at home and at work, and doing the best I could in both places. And I think that's okay. Like, I'm guessing there are probably moms out there today that are in that same boat, and that is an okay place to be and to feel good about.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't love a little kid that humbles you in the grocery store parking lot? First of all, they're good for that. Really good for that. I have a 4-year-old, I know. But that really brings me to my next thought of just how disproportionately women have been affected since the start of the pandemic. And we know millions of them have left the workforce, whether they chose to do that or whether they were forced to do that for caregiving. But how has Best Buy been supporting working moms? And maybe even more specifically, how have you been supporting them on your team?
Yeah, that's such a great question. To start, what I would say is Best Buy does an awesome job of supporting humans. So no matter what your context is, Best Buy has a catalog of amazing benefits for all employees. But I think in particular, some of them are critical as serving as a foundation for moms in the workplace. So a couple that come to mind: one, we have awesome work flexibility. So being able to kind of structure your work hours around what's going on at home. We've got a childcare benefit that is super helpful in finding reliable childcare. And we've got mental health benefits that are pretty outstanding. But in addition to that, and I think maybe more importantly, we have a genuine attitude of caring. So a few years ago, an employee of mine, this was pre-pandemic, was coming back from maternity leave. Lucy Crazier was coming back, and she was so frustrated by the lack of lactation suites. And we actually have a lot of them here on our corporate campus. But she was like, man, I know I've got, 15, 20 minutes between meetings, and I need to pump so that I can feed my baby.
Yeah.
And so she took it on herself to dig in and see what she could figure out. And she happened to meet with Kevin Ballin, who is an executive at Best Buy. And he also was at the time leading our employee resource group for parents. And she expressed her frustration to him and was telling him how hard this is. Now, keep in mind, Kevin is a dad, so he does not need a lactation suite.
That's right. Yes.
And his kids were mature and older. So he wasn't this wasn't his agenda or his need.
Right.
But what Kevin did was used his platform, his network, his connections, his experience, his know-how to help build a case and to help shepherd this need. And we ended up putting in multiple lactation suites. And that caring from Kevin and from Lucy, that's what I think sets Best Buy apart, and really caring deeply about each employee and their experience, and then doing something about it across the board.
Yeah, I think that's so important. When we talk about how do we help moms advance their career, we're really talking about just seeing them and meeting them with what they need. And the lactation example is so important. I know I was a mom, and I know moms who have pumped in a bathroom or a utility closet, and it's hard. That is extremely taxing on even just your mental health to keep going in your career with those kind of roadblocks. So to have men, women, any allies in the workplace and people like you're talking about at Best Buy who advocate for moms, even when it doesn't affect them, that is so huge and such a big perk of the Best Buy culture. So you mentioned mental wellness. So I think it's important to talk about that, because so many of these things, you don't achieve balance in anything if you don't also have mental wellness. So, can you talk me through some of maybe how you practice it, how you've encouraged your team, or how Best Buy's encouraged its team to seek for some mental wellness and mental health?
I think this starts really at the top. And at Best Buy, we happen to have several executives who've been really open about their own mental health journey. And then we just started telling stories at Best Buy. It became part of our everyday culture to talk about the importance of mental well-being, and for people to be vulnerable and come forward and share their own stories. And that's really powerful because what it does is it sort of opens up the dialogue and it gives space to the conversation. And it signals to people like, it's okay to say you're not okay. And for myself personally, like one of the things that I try to do is I check in with myself, like, and then I think it's really important for me to lean on healthy coping mechanisms versus unhealthy coping mechanisms. And that takes some like I got to think about that because it's real easy to fall back on unhealthy mechanisms like eating too much or drinking too much. And so, for myself, like I try to just be aware of where I'm at, and particularly in the moment we're in. The pandemic is a lot. This is no joke. And we are all balancing so much and keeping so many plates spinning. And so I do think it's important to check in with yourself and be honest about where you're at with yourself and with those that are around you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the point you made about how your managers and your executive team are openly talking about mental health and saying it's okay that you're not okay. Like, who is really okay after the last 2 years? Like, everyone's struggling in some way. So I think that just that, again, like representation of like, hey, this is okay. Like, we're all struggling a little bit. That's incredibly important. So let's think about balance. You and I have talked about this previously about how balance, everyone thinks of the scale and things are only balanced when they're even, but that might not be realistic, so you have your family and you have your work needs. So, I think it's different for everyone, but how do you find balance, and how have you helped your team members to find balance?
Yeah. Okay. I so much more about this since our last chat. And I do think it's so unrealistic to chase balance. Like if you think about it, a scale, you literally would have to be so precise and you'd have to be able to measure everything. And you know what? That's just so not realistic. Like life just isn't like that, right?
Correct.
So I was thinking about two different things. The first one is, I think we each as individuals have to know what our non-negotiables are. And so I don't think anyone has a lot of them, but you got to have a couple. Like, what are your non-negotiables in life? And for me, and I think this is probably the case for a lot of you, my family is number one. Like, I have to prioritize that. Now, that doesn't mean I'm making it to every little league game or that I'm home every time one of my kids is sick, because that's not realistic. That's not what's happening. But it does give me the foundation to make trade-off decisions. And when push comes to shove, if I have to make a decision between my career or my work and my family, I'm going to choose my family. I'm going to prioritize that. So I think being really clear on what your non-negotiables are helps you sort of navigate what gets thrown at you. The second thing that I would just have people like reframe balance is thinking about what helps you thrive. What do you need to thrive and flourish? And that is really contextual. So for example, when I was, 26 and managing 2 little kids by myself, what I needed to thrive one night might be making scrambled eggs and toast for dinner because it bought me 25 minutes of free time, right? Like that's what helped me thrive that time. What's helping me thrive today, when my kids are older and I've got a big job, is making sure that I prioritize sleep, because I need to have a lot of energy and stamina during the day to be engaged. So today, what helps me thrive is like making sure that I have my sleepy time tea at night and I go to bed.
Absolutely.
That was really different. It's like it's completely based on the context of where I'm at. So I think, ask yourself any given day, like, okay, what do I need to thrive today and to feel good and to feel my best? And then, work those things into your day, because I think you'll feel good.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think we talk about balance. A lot of the conversation around it is like everybody seeks the same thing for balance, but that's incredibly not true. My balance would not look like yours, and so on. And again, like different phases of life. I'm in the toddler phase, so we're making eggs for dinner over here, and you're just at a different spot. And I think that's part of the balance conversation, is recognizing what you need to feel some balance. And so I love that. I think that's really actionable for everybody to walk away with today. we have a lot of women in the crowd, in the audience today, and a lot of women I talk to every day who are re-entering the workforce, either pandemic related or they've raised their kids for many years, they're pivoting back to work, and they have this family. So what is some advice that you would give someone, looking to do that, trying to make that kind of big life transition when you go from, kind of full-time family to now having to split and balance the two?
Yeah. I think 3 things come to mind. First of all, give yourself some grace. Things might have changed. You might have forgotten what office politics look like. The language has changed. The technology has probably changed. And so, give yourself the grace that you're going to be in a moment of learning, and just be curious. Like, come at it with a sense of curiosity of like, ooh, tell me about that, or how does this work, or teach me about this. So that's the first thing. Give yourself grace. And then while you're giving yourself grace, I also want you to not underestimate yourself or not undervalue yourself. And you know what? Every single day, regardless of your situation, whether you're working your butt off at home or you're participating in your community or you're volunteering or whatever you're doing, you are learning and you are gaining such incredible skills that, believe me, will be put to use in a corporate environment. I read recently an article about the number 1 skill that companies are looking for right now is empathy. And I don't know what teaches you about empathy better than being a parent and navigating the world on behalf of your child.
Yes.
So,
yes,
give yourself some credit. And then the third thing, Cassie, that I was thinking about is asking for help. So at a situation.
That's hard for a mom.
I know.
That's hard.
I know it is. Last year, my husband had a health situation. It was pretty serious and he had to have surgery. And of course, I went into it thinking, I've got this, like, no problem. It's fine. I'm going to work. I'll work from the hospital. I can answer emails. I can take some calls. I did not have it and I could not do it. And it was a big deal. And I had to ask for help. So like at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, I was emailing saying, I need help. And guess what happened? The help came, right? Like people were happy to take things off my plate at work. People brought dinner over. And so like, I think we have to get out of our own way and ask for the help. Like ask for help on a Tuesday night, and your network and your group, they will come and rally because they're going to need help the next week.
So just for sure. Yeah, we're really good. Women, moms are really good about giving help. We're not as good about asking for it. But you're so right. So many of the women I talk to every day, they just need to see their value like other people see their value. Like I know the value of a mom. Like I know the stuff that we're capable of and what we do and how, phenomenal any one of these women would be at any place of work, just sheerly from what they bring with their mom experience, right? So you're absolutely right about just recognizing that for yourself. What is the best advice that you were given as a working mom?
Ooh, good question. I think Brene,
we get a lot of advice.
Yeah, this is a good one. Okay. This actually, I don't know that this was particular to being a working mom per se. I think this is just like good general advice.
Yeah.
And it was from, I happened to be working on this super interesting project with a handful of officers, and I was a manager at the time. And so I was kind of gobsmacked, right? I was like, oh my gosh, like they're all these really important people. And I had like executive-itis. And my director pulled me aside and he said, they don't have it figured out. They're working through it just like you are, and they need your help. They want your perspective and they want you to help. And Cassie, it was such a huge unlock for me because I just realized that I could add value and that my perspective mattered, and that the best thing I could do in this situation was roll my sleeves up and get to work and help. And I read this awesome book that I highly recommend called Impact Players by Amy Weissman. She also wrote The Multipliers. I would highly recommend both. And I audiobook these things so I can listen to them when I'm running around. And she has a whole chapter or section on what she calls making work light. And I think that's what this did for me. Like, it unlocked this idea that I could help. I could make work light for other people. Yeah. And I really have done that. I've done that for my peers. I've done that when I'm working with executive leaders. I do that with my team. Like, I try to make it light. I try to make it easy. I try to take things off people's plate. And I think that helps you, most importantly, advance the work. And when you advance work, you advance your career. So, that's really powerful advice that I received.
Yeah. I love that, because I love that how it speaks to you as a leader, because that is such an important quality that all employees can benefit from when someone at the top is making it easier to just do the job and advance the project. I love that. So that's kind of the best advice you were given, which is pretty great. That's a great nugget. I'm so glad our audience heard that. But what is the best advice that you would give for working moms? Is it the same, or would you give them something else?
I think what I would think about is giving things the 10-year test. My dad used to say this all the time. He would say it in his workplace, but he used all of his knowledge on his kids too. And he would always say, like, when we'd come home with some big drama or some big issue that was weighing on us, he was like, well, give it the 10-year test. Is it going to matter in 10 years? And the reality is, so very few things that we're worried about or that we're carrying around or that are weighing on us are really going to matter in 10 years. And all it does is kind of helps you box it up and give it perspective. So, like, at the end of a long day, give your day the 10-year test, and then box that sucker up, set it to the side, and go engage with your people and your kids and be there for them, and get some sleep, because that problem is going to seem so much smaller the next day.
Everything's better with sleep.
Would be my advice. Yeah, get some sleep.
Yeah, I love that. And that really goes back to your point about what matters most to you when you're thinking about balance. So, like you talked about, family is number one. And I think that's the case for a lot of us. So if at the end of the day, it's not something that 10-year plan affects your family and you've made the right choice in that regard, then box it up. Yeah, I love that perspective. I love that. What is something, because we have quite a variety in the crowd, right? So we have moms who have several kids who are teenagers. We have newborn, moms who have newborns who are just trying to navigate like this very, very uncharted water. I remember that so vividly coming back from maternity leave. But what do you wish you knew as a new mom? So thinking back to, like, right when you had these babies, like, what is something you wish you'd known?
I know you've all heard this, because I think every mom of older kids say it. It's all going to go really fast. So there's so much fun in your early career and the work you do, and it can be so rewarding. That's going to go fast. Your little people, before you know it, your 4-year-old is going to be driving a car.
Don't you're say that to me.
I know. You're going to be facing different challenges. I mean, it is literally such a blur. And so I think, what I wish I knew, because I know, like, as a mom coming back into work, at times I would be so focused on, like, my career and thinking about that. I wish that I could have, like, absorbed this fact that it is all going to be a blur, both my career and my kids.
So, everything.
Like, all of it. The more you can just, like, be engaged in the moment and truly focus on that thing in that moment, whether it's work or being at home with your family. I think you enjoy it more, and you enjoy every part of it.
Yeah, I love that. I think for me, I'll just speak especially for me, that's the part about balance that sometimes gets lost, is enjoying any one of the things, work or personal, in that moment. If I'm here and I'm doing it, like, let me just enjoy this minute that I'm in. So I think that speaks to balance as well, because you feel better when you sit in the moment that you're in and you enjoy it. It's this calming sense versus, like, the chaos of, like, all the things, right? All right. I think we have a few more minutes for some audience questions if you're up for it.
I am.
let's see. I gotta like scroll through the comment box for a second. Yeah, my daughter is almost 4 years old and it flew by. That's some of the comments we're seeing in here. Let me go. So many great comments.
I see one in here about how hard it is to be present. And, you know, I think one of the things that I really have tried to do is I do work a lot. So, I mean, I want to be honest, like I put a lot of hours into work, but I think I kind of came to this moment where I was like, okay, what I really need to do is like concentrate as hard as I can during like the work time frame and then do the best that I can to box it up. That's what I talked about. And so like, I almost like mentally make a picture of boxing work up and setting it aside so that when I go home, I can be more engaged in my conversations and my interactions, whether it's with my husband or my children, or if I'm meeting friends. And so, you know, I would maybe suggest trying to do that. Like if you can mentally envision boxing work up and kind of setting it aside, because it'll be there tomorrow, team. Like it will be there. It's not going anywhere, and you can tackle those problems tomorrow. So doing the best you can to kind of disengage so that you can be fully present with your family. I think, you know, like that's maybe one little tip or trick that I would try.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I found another question. I think this is good. I'd love your, opinion on it. It's from Haley. How do you advocate for change in a company that doesn't have a Jennie Weber? In a company that isn't as progressive as Best Buy and isn't, as thoughtful about some of this as you might be?
Oh, that's such a good challenge, Haley. I think, one thing that you can talk about is the employee experience is highly connected to the customer experience. And so if you're in any kind of service industry or consumer facing industry, and really what's not, like at some point you've got a client somewhere, someone's buying something, right? So we're probably all in some kind of service industry. So connecting this idea that as an employee, I can only do my best. You can only unlock the best potential for me if I'm feeling supported, psychologically safe, and like you appreciate me. And you can connect that back to the business and the effectiveness of the business and the ability of the business to grow. If you can make that connection, I think you have a really good case for change, like a business case for investing in employees.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. I think so much of it is advocating and also finding somebody on your team or on your executive team that you can connect with in that way and have a little bit more of an honest conversation about maybe what you need, or being an ally for somebody else so they don't have to have the conversation. If it's very uncomfortable for them, like thinking about your lactating example, maybe someone else on the team, if they didn't feel comfortable, could come forward and say, hey, we need something else here. So I love that as well. How best, maybe you can give some opinion. I mean, I'm sure you've interviewed a lot of people and hired a lot of members of your team, but how best do you think it is to frame your mom experience in an interview or even in a resume? Like, how do you prefer to see that? What's the best way to put that so that it's valuable to somebody you're interviewing with?
Yeah.
This is Lori. Thank you, Lori.
Boy, the resume piece I think is difficult. I think I would think about like, what are some of the things you've maybe done while you have been a mom at home? Because I bet there are things you're doing, you're participating in the community, you're maybe sitting on a volunteer board, you're maybe volunteering at school. So I would think of some of those like tangible things that you could maybe distill into experience that can go on a resume. As far as like in an interview process, you know what? I would just own it. Embrace the choices that you've made because they've been the best for you. They've been the best for your family. And I would not shy away from that. I think I actually saw this. Maybe someone was talking about this on Twitter, or I don't know, someplace that I read it. Like, if there's a company that's going to hold being a mom against me, that's probably not a place that I want to work. So I think, just be proud of the choices that you've made and what you've learned from that experience. I think I talk about empathy and how critically important that is for leadership. Think about it that way. Like, what are some of the things that you've learned as a parent that can apply to being a leader or a coach or a mentor? And there's a lot of things. And so like making some of those connections and then just being proud of it and owning it.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely think that that's what I see a lot when I'm working with moms is just you have the skills, it's articulating them in a way that pivot them to whatever job you're going for now. But you have the skills as a mom. Trust me, you do,
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep,
so we
absolutely.
have a few, there's a few questions in the chat that kind of all are around the same theme. They want to know how at the time you talk about when your child were young, you kind of had a survival job. They want, maybe you could talk a little bit about how you kind of flip that to a true career and maybe some steps you did there to kind of work your way up into the Best Buy role you're in now.
Yeah. I think a lot of it was maturity. So, I had Ben when I was 20 years old. And so I was finishing up college and really focused on that. And, as I matured and gained confidence, I started to realize that I had some superpowers and that I was good at some things. And so I kind of started to have more confidence in myself, and I was a little bit more established. I wasn't maybe having to be so focused on paycheck to paycheck. So I kind of, it was a confluence of my circumstances improved slightly, which gave me a little bit better foundation and stability. And then I think just maturity and confidence. And I started to realize that I actually really loved working. Like I love it. I get a lot of fulfillment out of critically thinking, about problem solving. I love being creative. I love leading a team. I love coaching people and just like helping other people succeed. And so I think I just had like kind of a pivotal moment where I realized like, oh, this is a thing. I can do this. Like I can be awesome at what I'm doing. And, from there, I really started concentrating on just that, like advancing the work, supporting people around me, and things kind of fell into place from there. I was given more opportunity because I wasn't afraid of it and I would jump in. I was given really complex projects that I think other people might have been like, oh, I don't want to do that. And I was like, I'll try. And I would jump in and do it.
Yeah, I love that.
Honestly, like that's how I built my career, is just sort of tackling some of those things and having some confidence in myself.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is such a big piece. I can see some of the comments coming through here that have that same theme of like having some confidence in yourself and just saying, yeah, I'm going to do it. Like sometimes it's not a matter of you having every single skill that maybe the role asks of you. It's really not. It's more of like the willingness to just jump in and do it and kind of see what happens and having that confidence in yourself, which really sounds like that was your strong suit when you pivoted into more of a career versus I call it survival job, but something like that. So let's see, I'm just scrolling through. We have time.
One other thought to add, Cassie.
Please.
I've heard people talk about fake it till you make it. And one thing I'd say about that, I think you want to be authentic and be who you are. And so I don't know that it's so much faking it till you make it. It's more jumping in and practicing and leaning back on that idea that none of us have it figured out. Like I'm constantly learning and constantly jumping in and trying something. And so it's less about faking it. It's more about practicing and getting in and building the muscles. And I think I saw a couple of things around like, the resume and interviewing. And I think you can almost have that frame of mind too. Like I'm ready to jump in and learn. I'm ready to jump in and practice. And that level of confidence is really meaningful to employers.
Yeah, I do think that your empathy that you were speaking about is so important. And I also think the like can do, willing to do attitude. And there's ways to convey that obviously in your resume, but also of course in an interview. You may not have it all figured out. That's totally fine. No one does. But you are still willing to try. So I think that's phenomenal. So we're going to wrap up. This was an awesome session. I appreciate you so much for joining us today. I want to let our audience know that Jennie is going to be in the expo hall in the Best Buy booth. So right after this, please hop over there and talk with her about Best Buy and all of their wonderful opportunities. So look forward to seeing you there. But Jennie, just thank you for your transparency and your advice and just having a really honest conversation with me about the art of balancing it all, if there is such a thing. But we got some really actionable tips, and I appreciate that so much.
I have appreciated you, Cassie. You're awesome, and it's been just lovely getting to know you as well.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of the summit.
Thanks, team.
Thank you, Jennie. Thank you, Cassie. What an incredible conversation. Jennie, your words came from such a genuine and authentic place. I love the advice. Think about what you need to thrive and flourish, because I think that that's what really allows us to be phenomenal. And since we're talking about being phenomenal, we have a speaker coming up that I think you are all be excited to see. And I want to take a minute and just set this stage for our afternoon keynote by reading an abridged version of one of my favorite poems, Phenomenal Woman by Maya Angelou. Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's in the reach of my arms and the span of my hips, the stride of my step and the curl of my lips. I am a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. I walk into a room just as cool as you please, and to a man, the fellows stand and fall down on their knees. It's in the arch of my back and the sun of my smile, the ride of my breast and the grace of my style. I am a woman. And now you understand just why my head is not bowed, and I don't need to shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. And when you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say, it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hand, and the need for my care. 'Cause I'm a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. And if you are here today, you are a phenomenal woman or a phenomenal woman ally. We just wanted to remind you that your head does not need to be bowed. We are here to support you as you stage your comeback. Now, before we get into the second part of our day, let's have a quick break with virtual booze. Make sure to stop by, and let's turn it back to DJ Megan for a little bit more tunes. See you soon. So the next portion is 3 powerful and incredible speed sessions. The first session will be with co-founder and COO of Neighborschools, Bridget Garsh. The second session, we will hear from storytelling coach Katie Quesada, and we're going to end with career coach Tara Skredynski. So Bridget, take it away. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to be here with everyone today. I am just thrilled to be joining all of you. I'm joining you not only as an entrepreneur who's on this mission to solve the childcare crisis in America, but I'm also a mom to Hudson, who's 4, and my pandemic baby, Brooks, who is almost 2. So the childcare struggle really does hit deeply close to home. Sometimes we need to look behind us before we can actually imagine what change is possible. So before we talk about innovation in childcare and how home daycares really play a critical role, I want to start with a story that actually reflects our current state and the contributing factors of the childcare crisis that we're in right now. I still remember when my son Hudson was 8 months old, and his favorite daycare teacher, Miss Qualla, left the center he was at. A few weeks later, our other favorite teacher, Miss Meg, she also left, and we were completely devastated. These were the women who had calmed me down as I sobbed, leaving Hudson when he was just 12 weeks old. They were the ones who helped us navigate sleep issues and teeth and diaper rashes and solid foods, and they knew all his little quirks. And in that moment, I learned something. I learned that even though we were paying this absolute fortune, Miss Quella and Miss Meg were making peanuts. Our money wasn't going to the caregivers who had become part of our family. It was going to overhead expenses to run the daycare. Every year, parents spend nearly $50 billion on childcare with a monthly price tag that is higher than their mortgage. But most educators are earning $30,000 a year and they can barely afford to feed their own families. It's no surprise that every year America loses a quarter of our childcare educators who simply can't make ends meet, and they're forced to leave the profession that they love. Now, this isn't because most daycare centers are malicious and mean and they're trying to pay educators these low wages, but it's because the economics don't work. There's only so much money parents can pay. The cost of like rent and maintaining a building and is really expensive, and then you need more administrative staff to keep everything running smoothly. So once all of that's paid for, there's actually very little left to pay the educators who are just essential to making childcare work. Now, childcare infrastructure was broken before COVID, as many of us know, but the pandemic has really only made things worse. Daycare centers are shutting down at a rapid rate because they simply can't afford to stay open. Those that are open are shortening operating hours to deal with staffing shortages, and educators are really fed up with low pay, and they're leaving the industry actually faster than ever. And with less childcare available, millions of employees, mostly moms, are leaving the workforce. And then on the employer front, COVID has both highlighted how childcare is completely essential for parents to work, but it's also completely changed the way we work, which makes it really challenging for companies as they're trying to respond quickly with new benefits and they're trying to stay competitive. With more people working from home than ever before, the office as we know it will never be the same again, which means that childcare centers that are located at an office simply don't work. Parents don't want to drive far from home just to turn around and drive far back home to start their workday. Backup care, which is the most commonly provided childcare benefit by employers, really only helps parents for these short-term coverage gaps, not in finding long-term, day-to-day care. So it was a helpful stopgap measure in the early days of the pandemic, but not in year 3. And companies who have been providing benefits like on-site childcare centers or memberships to platforms to find nannies, they're starting to realize that many of these benefits are often only accessible to their top wage earners because those are the employees who can afford daycare rates of $3,000 a month or hire full-time nannies. So I know that whether you're an employer or a parent, everyone is wondering, what does childcare look like in this new normal? And I'm here to tell you that there is hope. What if I told you that there's a world in which there's an incredible daycare on every block in every neighborhood across the country, whether you live in a big city or you live in a small town? Each of the daycares is run by an educator who's passionate about working with children, and they've received substantial training in things like child development and safe sleep, and they're first aid and CPR certified, all of these things that are really important to us as parents. There are small class sizes at 6 to 10 children, so every child is getting lots and lots of individual attention, and educators aren't leaving, so they form lasting bonds with kids and help them grow during their most critical years of development. That future is possible, and that future that I just described is home daycare. Home daycares embody everything that I just described. But there are 3 important facts I didn't get to include, and I know a lot of people don't know, so I want to share those with you as well. Number 1, licensed home daycares are regulated by the same state agencies that oversee those expensive corporate centers. So that means they have to meet the same health and safety requirements. They have to get background checks for themselves and everyone in their home. And their home is regularly inspected to make sure it's a safe environment for children. Number 2, because home daycares are run out of an educator's home, all of those operating and administrative costs like rent and maintaining a facility that I mentioned at the start of our session, they don't exist. So that means that rates are typically 30 to 40% more affordable for families. And because parents are paying educators directly, all of that money goes directly to an educator. So instead of making $30,000 a year, educators can earn up to $70,000 to $90,000 a year doing what they love. So now for the good news. The future is closer than we think. Every year, there are 100,000 caregivers trying to open these small licensed daycares that they run in their homes. But because of bureaucratic red tape and the complexity of launching a new business, 90% of these caregivers fail. There are literally 127 steps to open a licensed home daycare, and caregivers are actually expected to navigate those steps completely on their own. But they don't have to. Together, we can make that future a reality today. At Neighborschools, we've built a childcare platform and a community that guides caregivers step by step by step through that licensing process and that business setup process, which ensures that everyone who's qualified to open a home daycare has the tools and the community and the support they need to succeed. Together, we can help more parents find high-quality, affordable childcare. Together, we can empower thousands of caregivers, mostly women, to launch successful businesses where they get the respect and fair pay they deserve. Together, we can help employers add home daycare into their childcare benefits, supporting many more employees and increasing benefits equity across the entire workforce. Together, we can change the way we deliver childcare in America and make it better for everybody involved, for children, for families, and for educators. Now, I know that these are short sessions and we don't have much time for questions today, but I want to say thank you for spending some time with me, for thinking about childcare and the innovations that are possible. And if you believe in our mission, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your questions, whether you want to find a home daycare for your own kids, or you want help incorporating home daycare into your childcare benefits, or you want to join our team and help bring great childcare to every neighborhood across America. My contact information is available in the session description, and I would love to connect with all of you. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me now? Yes, great. Somebody just let me know that I'm muted. Hello, moms. I'm so excited that I'm here. This has been so great to be together. I am inspired to get some great home childcare in my neighborhood. I wish there was one right here. I'm so excited about that. Thank you so much, Bridget. That was incredible. And Mina, there's been so many incredible speakers this morning. I don't know about you, but I know there's so many moms in here. I had to do one of my least favorite things this morning, which is put a tantruming toddler in a car seat. Has anyone ever had to do that? That is such a bummer. And I was like, well, at least everyone here understands perfectly. My name is Quesada, and I'm a storytelling coach. And that was my comeback story. I was a part of an organization, and a little teeny tiny part of what I did was put on these large events for women specifically. And at one of these events on a Friday night, we had brought in a speaker. We were bringing in speakers, or I was speaking at them, and it was kind of a panel. At one of these events on a Friday night, we brought in an amazing speaker named Dr. Tama Bryant-Davis out of Pepperdine University. And she said on the stage at one of these events, did you know that there's a Barnes & Noble of untold stories here in this room? And I felt this radical conviction that I was never supposed to speak at these events again. And I wasn't supposed to bring in speakers. I was supposed to teach everyday women to tell their stories. So when I knew I needed to quit that job, it kind of got toxic. Life, I had a little baby. I was struggling to get pregnant again. Like life was so overwhelming. I felt like overworked and underappreciated, and quit that job 3 years ago. I launched a story coaching business. And so I said, hey, I'm a storytelling coach. And now thankfully, 3 years later, I run a thriving business consulting companies and teaching people to tell better stories. And I do that through listening and hearing and then condensing information. And so when the Mom Project reached out and said, we have this amazing community of women who really want to know and hear how to tell better stories, especially in interviews, how do they do that? And so we've been talking more and more, and my encouragement for you in our time that we have together is to know and own your story. That's something that Nina had mentioned earlier. But for a lot of us, we were like, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that feels like. And then even earlier, someone had asked Jennie, like, how do I talk about what it feels like to have been a mom and not have that be on my resume? What do I say about that? How does that feel? And so my first encouragement for you, which is very important, is you have to believe the story that you are telling in an interview. So if you're in an interview and someone's like, oh, I see you took a couple years off. Why? I want you to take out every apology that you have, every insecurity, and just start with, yeah, I made the brave decision to support my family for a couple of years because I knew that was what's best. It made me learn administrative skills, leadership skills, and an understanding of empathy that I know will apply to this company. So when you can have the confidence to say your own story and answer your own story and really talk through your own story, it will help 100%. Moms, we have to confidently come back. So we have to own our own story and know our own story. A lot of the work that I do with individual clients who are like, I need to figure out how to talk about myself and what that means, is just the work of condensing information. So what I do is concise and compelling storytelling. So for all of us here in this room, know that you have a powerful story. And the first step is just writing it out. So what is interesting about you? What makes you unique? What is something that you have been told in the past you're good at? What I've seen over and over again is that I meet with these incredible women. I had a client this year who was in her 50s. She has 3 kids. She's high up in the tech world. And she was introducing herself when someone said, oh, so tell me about yourself. She was like, yeah, I've been at Microsoft and yeah, it's been a long road, but glad I'm here. And I'm like, you are an incredible woman with a powerful story and we need to know. And so she started to say, okay, wow, what are some things that I'm really good at? What are some things that make me really unique? What are some things that are important about me? And then we have to share those things with confidence in a way that's concise. And how you can do that is just start by taking some notes, start to write some of your story out, start to learn what's unique about you. I wrote a blog in partnership with the Mom Project, and this is all written out very clearly, these 6 sentences on how to answer the question, so tell me about yourself. Because every single mom in the comeback is going to get asked that. In any interview, in any environment, you have an incredible story to tell, and how you tell it really matters. So start to identify what are some things that are about me and my own experience that are unique and interesting. So have you been in the administrative space? Have you been in the leadership space, in the management space? And often it's really important to remember, especially in interviews, resumes, cover letters, whatever that looks like, we often think people are asking for information where a story might be the better answer. So for example, someone might say, when was a time that you, when was a time that you performed successfully in the job given to you? You know, these kinds of questions where you're like, and you might say, I was a manager for 6 years and I got 4 stars. But that was a fact. What we needed there was a story. So what we needed there really clearly was, I was a manager and I had an employee who wasn't performing well. And that employee got really discouraged. And I took the time to sit with that employee and hear from them. And then they gained the confidence to continue to grow. So we might need to tell a story specifically in order to grow and help in that. So I'm going to walk you through those 6 sentences from a super simple formula to answer the question, so tell me about yourself. And I'm going to put the blog too in the chat. Oh, someone found it. Perfect. And it's right there for you so that you can see it. But the first thing you're going to say is, hi, so tell me about yourself. So they're going to say, hi, tell me a little bit about yourself in any one of these environments with interviews, storytelling, whatever that feels like. The first thing you're going to say is your name and what you do and where you are. So one of the problems that I see over and over again in how people tell stories is they give too much context. So this is really important to note, that often people give too much context for where they're at. So like, my name's Katie, I am in Orange County, California, but I once lived in LA, and then I also lived in Ohio, okay, back from Nebraska, whereas they didn't need to know that. They just needed to know where I live right now. So that might have been too much context. They don't need to know everywhere you've ever lived, all the homes you've lived in, etc. The second thing is your experience. And this is one sentence. So this is where I would say lean into saying something unique and impressive about your experience. So this is not, especially in verbal storytelling, which is interviews. In verbal storytelling, often what we do is we say, oh yes, so I worked at these 6 companies, and then we moved, and then I was a manager here, but I was also a manager here, but then I did support this person, but then I was an admin. But when in verbal storytelling, you're not reading your resume. So in verbal storytelling, you're exchanging things that are creating connection. You aren't just giving facts back and forth. So they have your resume. They're not wanting to know if you've memorized it. They want to have an impression about you. They want to hear from you and your voice. They want to know maybe about your family or what you love to do or what you're passionate about. They're watching to see what lights you up. So know that when they say, what is some, like, tell me about yourself. The experience you might want to share is, think through, what is something in my career that has been impressive that I've done? Maybe it's the school you went to. Maybe it's a position that you got. Maybe it's an award you've won. And that might be where right at the beginning you say, I'm Katie Quesada, and I got the incredible privilege to speak at the Mom Project. Even though that might not have been exactly the world I'm living in, saying that creates connection and engagement and shows what I have felt really excited about and clarified on. The next thing you're going to say in one sentence is how you help people and why you love it. So this is where in an interview or in storytelling conversations or even just talking to somebody about your job, you get to say, hi, I'm Katie, and I help people and companies tell better stories. I love it because I get to hear people's stories every day. Do you know how to answer that question? Do you know how to answer that question, especially if you're not currently working? This is so important to clarify because my husband is a stay-at-home husband, full-time, he's a stay-at-home dad. So I have a stay-at-home dad, and people ask him all the time, they don't know what to ask him. They're like, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a stay-at-home dad. And they're like, what'd you used to do? And he's like, I used to work in senior operations. But that's not a relevant question, right? So he says, I stay home with my kids and I get to take care of them. And I love it because time is going by really fast and I get to do this. So now he answered that question with confidence and clarity in such a way that helps me know, oh, he wants to continue to talk about this. So share a little bit about how you help people and why that matters. The next is you're going to say something about you that is deep and true. And this is important because for a lot of us, we tend to hide our own personal feelings or things we've been through, even though for a lot of us, that might be one of the most engaging things about you. So for one of my clients, she was a breast cancer survivor. And she said to me, one of the most amazing things I've ever been through is surviving breast cancer. She said, but I don't know if that's appropriate. I don't know where that's appropriate to share or how. And I said, I think you should lean into that. And we had this whole conversation about how in the interview process, she said, I have 15 years experience in the marketing industry. I have led teams, but one of the most amazing things I've done is overcome breast cancer. And I'm now in recovery. I'm now in remission. And her journey of saying that really elevates her self-awareness. And for everyone else in the room, they can say, wow, she has done a lot more than just manage a team. She's learned resiliency. And that is a really important part. Just a quick tip about storytelling is you want to share a value, not just an event. So when you say you have experienced maybe moving 5 times, what you've learned from that is probably adaptability. Adaptability is the value. So you want to take your events from your life and you want to connect them to values. And when you can do that, it becomes translatable, it becomes connected, people can really engage, you can own it, exactly, you can hold yourself in it. And so you can say, oh yeah, I have overcome this really big, scary, hard thing. Maybe that thing for you is early parenting. That was very big, scary, and hard for me. It was very hard for me to be a new mom. And what I learned from that experience is I am capable even when life feels out of control. And that is a job skill. That is a transferable job skill, that you learn how to be capable and smart and on your game, even when things feel out of your control or things feel chaotic. So learning to articulate that is incredibly encouraging. The last thing is on your 6 sentences is you want to say something lighthearted to build connection in the room. And that is an important part of the process. Like, and I love to play outside with my kids. My daughter just got some roller skates. So that's what we're into right now. So that someone can talk to you about that afterwards. And then always end with questions about yourself, specifically in like, so tell me about yourself, that question. Always end with redirecting it towards the company. So you always want to end with, and I'm really happy to be here. And I love that your company does this. So that part of the process of redirection creates encouragement and connection. So you want to say, I'm so excited to be talking with you, Emcee. I'm happy to be here because I've bought your products for years and I know that they have a personalized touch, whatever that is. You want to redirect it back at the end. And this is a really important part. I think we have time for a couple questions, a couple minutes. Katie, I want your top. Thank you. This is from Target. What else was on here? I think someone can put a question on. Yes, I've moved many times and I need to own that adaptability and flexibility is my strength. Wouldn't you get worried about that company not hiring you from the shame of serious health challenges that you overcame? That is so great. Wouldn't you worry that you wouldn't get hired if that you share a serious health challenge? Yeah, I think that goes back to exactly what I think Jennie said earlier today, which is if this company isn't going to hire me because of something that I've been through, maybe this isn't the right company. And I would say that again and again. I think that more and more organizations are going into holistic hiring versus just an algorithm that spits out the best people. I think that more and more people are leaning towards having an environment where they know, oh wait, everyone is overcoming hard things. All of us are. And that is not a disqualifier for whether or not you are capable and supposed to be a part of the profession like that. So I think that that's huge. I appreciate that. It's a great question. Another question is, a lot of people are saying that they never have thought to add things that are personal. Let me be very clear. If you are in an interview, the most important thing that you can do is make an impression, not exchange information. So making an impression is going to take you sharing personal stories and things that you've overcome, things that you love, having levity, engaging. So your personal skills really play a part in storytelling and interviews. It's incredibly important. Yeah, that formula is there for you. You can read that on the blog so you can kind of walk through this much more clearly. And if you don't have more than 10 minutes on here, that's great. And then moms in the room, know that the question is not whether or not you are a storyteller, you are. The question is just, do you know what stories you're telling? You're telling stories to your kids, you're telling your stories to your spouses, you're telling stories to your partners, you're telling stories to your bosses, your employers, you're telling stories to your friends about how you feel about work. And those stories really matter. So figure out how to craft those stories in a way that is concise and compelling. And the greatest stories begin around the dinner table. So know that if you want to look for a great place to tell stories, it's the dinner table. Thank you guys so much for the time. I'm so excited to be here and I'm cheering on every single mom that is on the comeback. You've got this.
Okay, I think I'm live. Hi, everyone. My name is Tara Skredynski, and I'm a career and leadership coach. My business is called Career Fit Consulting. I'm also a mom of a 2nd grader and a rally mentor and a job club champion with the Mom Project. So I'm super excited to be here with you all today and talk with you about one of my favorite things, the power of networking. I'd like to share a personal story about networking in my career. I was thinking about leaving over a decade of experience in early childhood education. So I was running childcare centers and I had just had my son. I was feeling burnt out and exhausted. I know we've all been there. And I knew there was something else for me, but I wasn't sure what it was. And so I took some time. I quit my job and I spent some time with my son. I thought a lot about what I wanted next in my career. and what I was good at. What were my strengths? What were my skills? I researched jobs, I applied for jobs, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And it wasn't until I had a conversation with a career coach at a university that I had this aha moment. Yes, this is what I want. I want your job. So these conversations, they're not only powerful when you're looking for work, they're powerful if you are making a pivot in your career. So I want to lead with that. And let's see if we could jump to my first slide. I'm going to share 3 strategies with you today. The first one is a really powerful one. Adopt a networking lifestyle and a curious mindset. So we know that employers want to hire from within, right? They want a referral. And 80% of jobs are found through networking, right? It leads to those informal job openings. I'll talk more about that later. But if you are applying for jobs and you are sending out your resume to hundreds of jobs a week and you're not getting responses, you're feeling deflated, right? That is so common, so normal. And I would encourage you to pause, to think about networking and making some meaningful connections. Now, networking can be uncomfortable, right? Especially if you haven't had to do it in a while. You're putting yourself out there. You're getting vulnerable. So start with people you know, people in your network, friends, family, neighbors, colleagues, people in your community. Think about parents at your kids' school and have a conversation, right? Make it easy. Let curiosity be your friend. So I like to think of it as, what is the energy you are bringing to the conversation? Is it coming from a place of curiosity and interest, maybe a little excitement? Or is it coming from a place of, I need something, please help me, right? So I like to think of it as an energy first approach. And if you can approach it from a curious and interested place, it will feel better and you'll get more out of it. All right, so the next strategy, slide number 2, is focus on the relationship, right? So networking is all about building relationships, and you want to be genuine when you connect and authentic in your outreach, right? Why do you want to connect with this person? Do you know them well? Do you not know them well? Do you want to find out more about them? Like, what do they do? What are they interested in? How do they get to where they are today, right? Ask those important questions and listen actively or with the intent to understand. So many times we listen with the intent to respond, but if you can stay present and listen with the intent to understand, you'll get more out of it, more information. And then it's a give and take. So really come to the conversation with, how can I support you? How can I help you? Maybe if they're in a job search, you offer to be an accountability partner. Maybe you share a new perspective, right? Maybe you offer to connect them to someone in your network. Come to the conversation willing to help. And then follow up, right? After you've had that great networking conversation, you've got a lot of useful information, you're feeling energized, follow up and thank them. Thank them for their time. Thank them for, taking that amount out of their day to connect with you. And really, connection is so valuable. It's what we want, right? It's what we're all seeking. Okay, and then the last slide I have today, or the third strategy, is using LinkedIn to tap into the hidden job market. So the hidden job market is all the jobs that aren't posted yet. And what I want to say about this is that it also works. It's maybe a little bit more uncomfortable because you are reaching out to people you maybe don't know. But again, a personal story is I was ready to leave a large company. I wanted to work for a smaller women-owned company, and I found one, but I didn't know anyone at the company. And I got on LinkedIn. I searched through my connections. I found someone who was a second-degree connection. And I thought, she seems like she might want to talk with me. She's a coach. She's got a similar background. I reached out to my shared connection. She made an introduction. I got to talk with this woman. It was a great conversation. She asked for my resume, passed it on to the hiring manager. I had some great conversations with that hiring manager. And 2 months later, they reached out to me. They were hiring. I got offered the job. It was a great experience. I didn't have to apply online. I didn't even have to send references. So it does work. And I encourage you to, again, be vulnerable and try it. And there are some tips, right, to using LinkedIn. It's a very useful networking tool. And the first one is really to optimize your profile. So what does that mean, right? It means making sure that you have a strong brand, right? Like Katie said, like, do people know your story? Do you have keywords, key skills, and a message in your headline? Is your about section who you are, what you do, what you're passionate about, where you're headed, right? Does it tell your story? And make sure that your profile is complete, right? That's an important piece. You want to have recommendations. Employers read those. I had a client say to me once, recommendations feel like Yelp reviews. And yes, they sort of do feel like Yelp reviews, but they're helpful, right? So make sure that your profile is complete. It tells your story. Join industry-specific LinkedIn groups, right? LinkedIn groups are a great way to grow and build your network. So think about what interests you. What industries do you want to know more about? And join those groups. Participate. Activity and participation on LinkedIn is so helpful. It's a great way to engage in conversation. And, you can cultivate new connections that way. Follow your target companies. If you want to work for the Mom Project, follow them on LinkedIn and engage with their posts, right? Make a comment, share a perspective. Know your value. So Katie touched on this quite a bit, right? What is your superpower? How are you unique? And practice it. Practice telling that story. When you are reaching out to people on LinkedIn, make sure that you send a personalized connection request. I can't emphasize this more. It's so important. If someone reaches out to me on LinkedIn and I don't know them and I don't know why they want to connect with me, oftentimes I don't accept their connection request. But if they send me a note like, hey, Tara, I saw that you were presenting on the Mom Project today. I'm so excited to learn more and connect with you. Yes, I absolutely want to connect with you too. So send that personalized note on your connection request. And use some targeted questions once you have that meeting. Once you have that networking meeting, make sure that you have some questions that you want answered, right? You're leading the conversation. Do you want to know about their career path? Do you want to know about their company? Does their company support working parents? Like, how did they get their job? What do they like about it? What are some challenges? So really make sure that if you've got 15 minutes, you're going to get the most out of your time with that person. And the last tip is, remember, most people want to help. So even if you don't get a response, it's not personal, right? You got to just keep on going. And let's see, I think I've got 5 minutes, so I would love to answer some questions. Ooh, how can you feel more comfortable if you're not a social media user or new to LinkedIn? Yes, social media is our world, right? We kind of have to get comfortable with it. And I get it. I was not a social media user. I would say, again, start with having conversations with people you know, and then, slowly break into social media. So if you're not familiar with LinkedIn, start with your profile. Start with building your network, reaching out to friends, family, colleagues, and start with liking and commenting on posts. Maybe you don't post an article right when you start on LinkedIn, but you get familiar, right? You take it one step at a time. But yeah, it is challenging, and you do have to kind of get comfortable with the uncomfortable. But there's so much support out there. So use your support network too. Get an accountability partner who says, hey, let's both make 5 comments on LinkedIn this week. We can do it. And I'm going to like your comment and you like my comment. Thanks, Lori. All right. Do you have an example or recommendation of how you handle your mom pause on LinkedIn? Yes, especially if you've been out of the workforce for over 5 years. Absolutely. So LinkedIn came up with a working parent job title, essentially. So you can put that on your LinkedIn profile as your mom pause. And you don't have to put a lot of detail in there. It was a pause. And, if someone asks you about it, you can be prepared to talk about it. But it's not something that, again, like you want to own your mom pause, right? And so put it on LinkedIn. It's not something you need to hide. All right, let's see. Carmen, do you recommend to reach out again if someone doesn't get back to you in LinkedIn? Great question. So again, think about the energy you're putting out there. It is okay to reach out again. I would say one more time, maybe a week later if you haven't heard from that person, but that's probably it, right? If they don't respond after 2 outreaches, then you kind of just want to move on, right? Pick someone else to connect with. And again, don't take it personally. Megan, let's see. How do you ask for honest feedback about your resume or profile? Great question. So I would start with a friend or someone you trust, a colleague, or a coach, right? Ask for, do you know what I do when you look at my headline? Is my story pretty clear? Do you get a feeling for my strengths, my skills, my qualifications, where I'm headed in my career? And maybe ask a few different people, right? Maybe you ask a colleague, a friend, and a family member, and maybe a coach, right? And you'll get some honest feedback and good tips, right? And that will help with standing out on LinkedIn, right? You want someone to find you on LinkedIn, and that's why optimizing your profile is so important. All right, how do you connect without it sounding too salesy? Great question. So I often send my clients these little templates, right? And I always say, put it in your own voice, in your own words. If you were reaching out to someone you knew, would you say, hello, I found on your profile that you went to this college. That sounds so great. I'd love to learn more about your time at that college. Or would you say, hi, I'm Tara. I'm really interested in learning more about sustainability. I'm navigating a new career path, and it sounds like you're someone who knows a lot about this field. Would you have time to connect? Again, make it conversational and use your voice. Don't try and make it too sort of formal or template-y. As Katie said, you want to make it comfortable and you want to own it. All right. I think that might be all the time we have today. So I just want to say thank you so much, and please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm here to support you, and great job networking. Yay.
Great job networking. I can't believe in 30 minutes we've learned about the future of daycare, the power of storytelling and networking, and walked away with real actionable tips Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Don't forget to network here. Drop your information, your LinkedIn in the chat. So next, we're going to hear from our fabulous partners and through our partner sessions. But I also just want to take a pulse check. How are you all doing? Are you still excited? Did we deliver on that promise of day 2 and stepping up to that bar? What have you learned so far? Go ahead, let us know in the chat your top takeaways from today's session. Who's inspired you? I don't know if I could pick just one. And don't forget, we're still looking for your feedback, and those prizes are still up for grabs. So, all right, now we're going to jump over to those partner sessions, and we're going to hear from our leaders from Zendesk, Vivi, Initiative Media, Synchrony, Splunk, Meta, and hear from our 2 experts, some of my favorite people here at the Mom Project. I hope you enjoy these sessions, and I can't wait to hear all about it when we return back to the main stage in a little bit. Partners, take it away. Well, day 2 of the Comeback Summit could only be described in one word: phenomenal. Jennie Weber started our day off with a lesson that we should all embrace. You have to know what your non-negotiables are. Nina Harris has inspired the phenomenal in all of us and reminded us not to let go of those things that fuel our passion, because you never know where it might lead. Bridget informed us about the changing narrative and approach to childcare. Katie taught us to have the confidence to talk through your own story. And Tara encouraged us to adopt a networking lifestyle and a curious mindset. I would love to also give a huge shout out and thank you to our amazing sponsors who have continued to make impact for moms: Amazon, Best Buy, Emcee, Boomi, Initiative Media, Synchrony, M1 Finance, Zendesk, Riot Games, Logitech, Train Technologies, Mind, Vista, Workato, Neighborschools, Accelerated Digital Media, Kellogg's, Intuit, and Vivi. And Vivi, again, thank you for the lunch yesterday. DJ Megan, we really couldn't have done this without you. I hope you all enjoyed the past 2 days, and we want to thank you for taking the time to launch the comeback with us. Now it's only a matter of time before we are all back to progress. And before we leave, I have a very special surprise for you: a brief message from our very own chief mom, Allison Robinson.
Hey everybody. Well, I'm away on maternity leave and getting to spend these special moments with my new daughter, Caroline. I just had to drop in and say hello. And thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to our amazing partners who have committed to bringing moms back, but not just back to the way that things were before, back to a better, more human workforce. We could not do the work that we do at the Mom Project without you, and you mean the world to us. Thank you also so much to our speakers, our panelists. You came from such a variety of backgrounds: venture capital, teaching us about how to explain our gaps in resumes, to upskilling and Rise. I was here for all of it. It was amazing, and really appreciate you sharing your helpful tips and resources with us. And thank you to our community, all of you, our amazing moms and mom supporters who are a reason for being. You're our why. Seeing your chatter in the comments and just feeling your energy lit such a fire under me. And you all are a reason for being. You inspire us every day to wake up and work harder and push harder for progress, and to build a future that our daughters will be really proud of. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you to my partner in crime, our amazing Emcee, Rocki, for sharing your magnetic energy and your visionary leadership with us all over the last couple of days. And thank you so much to the rest of the Mom Project crew, especially Tara and our amazing marketing community team. You have created just such a special event, and I feel so much closer to all of you. It's crazy to think that the Mom Project was founded nearly 6 years ago, after my first Asher, and the momentum that we've seen really speaks to the need of the Mom Project in the universe. And so 2021 marked a lot of growth for us. We have such amazing things in store that we can't wait for you to see in 2022. More jobs, more upskilling, more opportunities for connection and community. We know it's such a hard time in the world for so many, and please know that this event has only emboldened us to want to push harder and support each of you, no matter where you're at in your journey. So thank you for being here with us over the last couple of days, and I can't wait to see y'all when I return in March. Cheers.
I didn't expect to get teary-eyed, but seeing Allison, I just want to say thank you for being my partner in crime. When Allison and I first met, we both had chill bumps, and it doesn't go away. Every time I see her speak about the Mom Project, she is such an inspiration. Allison, please know, like, we wouldn't be here without you. You are what Mom looks like. Everyone, this is Mom, and this is how phenomenal Mom is. And you all, Mom, is why we at the Mom Project fight every day. So, okay, my team has just given me the names of today's prize winners. And so, again, I'm going to apologize. I hope I get all your names right. But let's dig into it. We have Anam Arif, Shenyelu Onuchi, Rachel Bailey, Claudia Martinez, Sarah Katz, Trisha Speth, Jennifer Bavaro, Leah Lucas, Samantha Reamer, and Tajana Miller. You all just keep your eyes out for those prizes. They are on the way. Thank you so much for your engagement. And speaking of team, I would like all of you all that are here to please blow up the chat and help me give a shout out to the incredible team who has worked night and day to put all of this together for you. And I hope you bear with me because I would be remiss if I didn't call these individuals out. From an event planning and execution standpoint, Jennifer Fry, Courtney Pitts, Ariana McGuire, Jane Dorsey, Taylor Simone, and Tara, sweetie, you know I love you. Just thank you. Our speakers and our moderators, Belissa, Cassie, Chandra, Christy, Kate, ELB, Elizabeth, Lizette Brown, you probably saw. We know her and love her as ELB. Tyler Griffin, thank you. Our superpower session leaders, Vaughn, Ariana, Keita, Angie, Colleen, and Kyle. Man, thank you for using your superpowers for good. Our lounge experts, Jennifer Fry and Cassie Manning, and our very own executive producer, Kelly Elliott. Thank you so much. After DJ Megan Taylor leaves us, we're gonna, with some good vibes, our expo hall will be open for the next 30 minutes. So please take a minute, pop back into the booths of those people who supported us, visit our partners, go use your new storytelling and networking skills, and go find your new next big opportunity, stage your comeback. I want to end by just thank you for giving us the gift of your time by joining us. We hope that we have powered your comeback, and I just encourage you to make it an awesome and productive week. Bye all.